Rocio Ortiz, illustrator of Thoughts of a Sacramental Mind, shares her journey of faith. Welcome, everyone, to Polycarp's Paradigm. My name is Eric Robinson, and I have the immense privilege of interviewing my friend Rocio. And we're going to do a two-part interview. This first interview is going to be about her story of faith. And the second one is going to be more about the book she illustrated, Thoughts of a Sacramental Mind, the book I wrote. And she did an amazing job illustrating. We're going to give you all a behind-the-scenes look at kind of the thought process behind those. But first, just wanted to welcome you, Rocio, to the podcast and to the YouTube channel and all of that. And so thanks for coming on.
No, thank you for inviting me. It's an honor.
Yes. And I've actually shared this before on my podcast, but just to give people who may have not heard that earlier episode, we met. I just think this is the coolest thing. Like, it was in January of 2020 we met. And the day before we met, Rocio, I had sent an email to someone asking, like, do you know where I could find like an illustrator for my book? I'm really thinking that would be great. Because my book's about the 7 sacraments, and so an illustration for each of the sacraments would be so awesome. And the lady replied to me like, no, I don't know who could do that. And the next day, Saturday morning mass, random mass at my parish, which you don't even go to that parish.
Yeah, not usually. Yeah.
We just saw each other after. I saw a group of young adults I knew, and I saw you, and we started talking, and you had mentioned that you had just graduated from the Savannah School of Arts. Mm-hmm. And that you were an illustrator. And I was like, no way. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, and it's funny because for me, so I just graduated and I applied for jobs and other things, but like I felt very uneasy every time I was applying to jobs. And I was like, is it because like I'm afraid of working for someone? Like, I don't know. And then that morning during mass after communion, when I was praying, I was like, God, Lord, what do you want from me? Like, I don't know, and I'm getting like a little bit like impatient. I don't want to get impatient, and I just like don't know what to do. And then I was with the group of young adults, which I didn't know anyone but Jake. And then he started introducing me, and then you came, and then you were like, and everything that you said, and then it's like, and I just like got the opportunity to illustrate my first book, which was the main reason why I joined SCAD, the college that I went to.
Yeah.
And to illustrate, I mean, that was one of my biggest motivations, I guess, to illustrate books about our faith.
Wow. And that morning you were praying about this, like about wow. I didn't know that.
Like, no, yeah, I think I mentioned it, but yeah. It was like that, and I was just like, I don't know, like, and I was like about to give up. I was like, it's just like, and get like, I don't know, like all sad, and then this happened.
Wow. Yeah. That's awesome. I remember you mentioning like how, because I was like, yeah, and I have this book, and you were like, man, I've been wanting to illustrate a book about my Catholic faith and stuff. And it was just like, it seemed like, and it really was such a God moment of just like, okay, this is totally God. Like, he wants this to happen. So let's let him move, and we'll see where
you know how they say like things will not fall from the sky. But I just feel like this was like very like just like a God thing.
Yeah.
Like, because we didn't know each other, and it just like happened like that.
Right.
I was like, okay, like it was meant to happen.
Yeah. And then we kept seeing each other at mass at St. Anthony's there in the Woodlands as well. And that's where we got to like kind of coordinate as well in the coming months about the different illustrations. And we would talk after mass about certain, what we're thinking about a certain thing. And, and you shared a little bit pretty soon after I met you about your own faith journey, which I think is phenomenal. And I would just love to dig into that. And that's why I wanted to invite you on too, just to share your own story. Because obviously you're a gifted illustrator. If anyone's seen the book, I'm showing it to the YouTubers right now, but just the front cover alone, like, I mean, it's just like, it's the face of Jesus, everyone. Like, it doesn't get much better than that. And he's friendly. And I love that. Like, one of my friends, he was telling me like how he just loves your illustrations of Jesus smiling throughout the book, and like this portrayal of Jesus on the front cover, because it's like there's so many pictures of Jesus where he's like frowning or mean, And it's
Yeah.
like, no, he's got the oil of gladness on him. Like, he's a fun, loving guy. Like, come on.
Yes, and that's how he truly is. I believe so. I
Yes.
believe.
And, I think in terms of Jesus, like, I think mainly in terms of a friendship. And that's really what, your journey of faith and our journey of faith is like it's talking about how's your friendship with the Lord developed over time? And so let's start digging into that. So when you grew up, you were born in Mexico
Mhm.
and you lived there till you were 12. So what was the religious upbringing you had? Like, were you born into a Catholic family? And what was that like growing up? And what were some of the pivotal moments in your formative years there?
Yeah, so yes, I did grow up in a Catholic family, still a Catholic family. Uh, and I went to a Catholic church, school for girls as well. So I also had a lot of formation there. I got introduced there to what the masses were, because since I was little, they will take us to mass. Like it was, I believe it was every week, like once a week, or every 2 weeks. I don't remember. But yeah, so I did receive faith formation there, and as well as like outside, like in my parish in Mexico, I will also have catechism and like other things. But yeah, so it was good. But again, like whenever we started, well, at least for me, whenever I started growing up, my faith was just like a child, I guess. Like, oh yeah, my parents told me there God existed. I was like, okay, yeah, like it exists.
Yes.
Um, I do remember praying a lot. I remember very, which is part of my story, as I will say, continue telling you guys about. But I do remember when I was very young, that one of my first things that I wanted to do, whenever I, get to heaven, it was to embrace God and give him a big hug.
Yes.
And yeah, so so I did have like a few like moments with him. And then also sometimes in my school, like I during recess, I will just like skip recess and go sometimes to the chapel and just be there. And
Wow.
sometimes I will pray, but I just like there was something about it I didn't know because I was very young. But I will just like be there and just like observe everything. But yeah, so that was it, kind of growing up in Mexico. Blessed, I was very blessed with my family and the faith of God.
Now, when
Um,
y'all moved to the United States, to Texas, when you were 12, was that pretty tough transition for you? And was it a tough transition, even like, was it a tough moment for your faith as well?
yes, it was. It was in every way, I guess, because once I moved here, I started to be bullied. People started bullying me. I was a little bit overweight. And then not only that, but like it was very hard also to learn English. I thought in my school they taught us, but not as well as I thought. So it was a little bit hard, to understand and communicate with others. But I did find it. I found a way to communicate, which was with like signs, just gestures,
Yeah.
and yeah, so that was good. But yeah, it was challenging in my faith because I was bullied, and then I started going through like depression, and I started
Mm.
to like distorted truths, so basically lies about who I was. So
Mm.
it was like lies were telling me my false dignity, and I started to see beauty in a totally different way, like very negative. Um, and yeah, so it was hard. And then like after I went through all of that, I then almost became anorexic.
Mm.
So it was even harder because I was also like afraid of what people would think of me, like now that I've lost weight. And then
Mm.
I was also getting afraid of uh, eating. And also I knew God existed, but I was kind of like, it was hard to me to feel him. And I believe that the reason why it was like that is because I started hardening my heart and
Mm.
filling my heart with all of these false truths. And like I just was refusing to see the truth about me, and I just didn't want to see it. I just wanted to see and grasp like what I could see basically. So if I saw that my body was like slimmer or like thinner, like I remember measuring my arm with my hand, and
Mm.
like I will not be satisfied until like it fit here. um
Wow.
so so yeah, so I
And
started
that
to
was
feel
like
my
kind of
faith
throughout
growing.
middle school and high school.
Yeah, it stopped on 10th grade. Uh,
In
yeah,
10th grade?
when I had my moment, I guess, with God. It was during my confirmation.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and also during your middle school, like, was the Catholic Church, was your experience of the Catholic Church, obviously you were being bullied at school and stuff, but was the church itself, the church experience, pretty similar to how you experienced it in Mexico? Or was that kind of different as well?
It was different, and I actually like, okay, so throughout this moment that I was going through like a lot of emotional things,
Hmm.
um I was still going. I guess I was kind of cold. I maybe lukewarm, um which is scary because I think you might know the Bible verse that God says that everyone that is lukewarm, like I will spit them out of my mouth.
Yeah.
So it was scary, like after I noticed that I was like, but anyway, in that moment, like, yeah, in the church, I just, I don't know, I feel like here it was more meaningful, at least from my point of view,
Mm,
because in Mexico, I just thought of Catholicism as a culture.
mm,
So I just thought that everyone was Catholic. And I also, yeah, like, oh, like, you're not going to Mass, but like, we all go to Mass. Like, why are you not going to Mass on Sunday? Like, it's Sunday. So
yeah.
things like that. And then, like, when I moved here, I think I started to notice that it's not everyone. And so it started to have more of a meaning to me.
Yeah.
So that's why I guess it was kind of different when I moved here. Uh-huh.
And that's, and it's understandable, like, as far as you were feeling all this hurt from your classmates and struggling with all these, with depression, all these thoughts, these lies. And it kind of makes sense that you're trying to just guard your heart, guard yourself even from God. And so what's amazing though is they broke through. And
Yeah.
and so tell us about that, and if you want to go even in more detail on what you've shared so far, but um because I mean, a lot of girls struggle, a lot of people struggle with self-image,
Yeah.
and all of that. So how was it that you finally kind of got out of that trap, that way of thinking, and that depression, really?
Oh boy. Okay. Come Holy Spirit.
Yes.
Uh, it was it was very hard because again, like I was at a point where my head was working at the same time as what society was telling me.
Mm,
And again, like you see all of these things in magazines, in social media, and I do believe, I might be wrong, but I do believe that when I was in middle school and the beginning of high school, it was when it all started to like booming, like Facebook and Instagram and all of that.
mm-hmm.
So it was very hard to fight against that current. But yeah. So but it was easy later on. I mean, it's hard to make that decision. But okay, I'm just gonna go explaining this story how it went
Yes,
through.
yes.
I will say it. So yeah, so I was still going through all of these and I was not happy. I remember crying a lot
Mm,
in my room and like I was getting very angry with my family. I did feel very bad because I mean it's not their fault, but I was, and like it also had to do because I was not eating, so I know how food it affects me. I do need to eat. I think we all need to, right? But yeah, it makes me hungry. And so yeah, and so in 10th grade, whenever I joined confirmation, at the beginning I didn't want to join my like the classes and everything. Not that I didn't want to get confirmed, but I just didn't want to go through the entire process. Like that was in my heart and somewhat deep in it. But my mom was like, no, give it a chance, like you should go. Because again, like I was pushing, like you said, like pushing God away. And many of my
mm-hmm.
friends as well, and my family even, started to get to that point. And like something in me was like, okay, I think I do need to do this. So I joined, but then I was with a group where I didn't know anyone. And it just was like, I came back home and I was like angry, like, Mom, I don't want to be in that group. Like, why? Like, blah, 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 blah. And then my mom is like, again, super patient with me, like, no, just give it a try, like, just wait, everything's gonna be okay. And then I think I came back angry many times, and she tried to move me, like she talked to the people at the church, but no. And then at the end, she was like, okay, they can change you. Do you want to be moved to another classroom? And like a part of me was like, no. I think that like after everything, after me complaining a lot, I was like, no, I do want to stay. And the reason was because like I wanted to trust, and that God put me there for a reason. And so I decided to stay there and see, like, I mean, I didn't talk there as much. I shared a little because I was getting very shy, and I was very timid after everything. Again, like pushing away people, right? And so, yeah, and we went through the entire thing, and then it was around March, January, at the beginning of winter, end of winter, January, that we went to the retreat, the confirmation retreat. And I remember the first thing that they told us, like, okay, guys, so you guys are going to get confirmed. You're going to receive the Holy Spirit. But if you guys like truly want this, like, you have to open your heart to him. You have to say yes to him. So I remember taking a lot of time to say yes, to have that courage, because I didn't want to say it just like that. I was like, okay, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to do things like right. I'm like, with 100%, right? Like not just 50, 50 or 30, 70, like no, like I do like to do things well done. So I was like, okay, I'm already here. I'm just going to do it. So yeah, so after a long time of like, yes, no, I feel like I'm not being sincere with myself. And then after a few hours, I was like, okay, yes. And yeah, nothing happened that moment.
Yeah.
But I told him, yes, I allow you to enter into my heart. The next day I went to confession. And in Mexico, at least my family, like we used to go to confession very regularly, like almost like, I mean, it was very regularly, once a week. And then in my school, they offer it every day. So
Wow.
I do remember going a lot. Yeah. So it was not like something scary for me, which I do remember it was for many people. So whenever I went there, of course, pride came to me. And I was like, oh, I'm going to show like my classmates that like I don't cry after confession. That was so wrong.
Wow.
Because I went to confession and I was like crying and I was crying. I was like, I'm weak like everyone else. And then yeah. And then after that, I was like, okay, I think I need to find a spot that it's quiet for me to pray. And I found a perfect spot, which I do love lakes, just like water things like oceans, rivers. I love that. And especially whenever they're clear and you can see below, like the fish or the plants underneath the water. And that lake had that. And I was like, this is awesome. Okay, so I just sat there and I started praying. And then I was, okay, so one thing to answer like both, I'm going to be answering both. So I'm going to be telling the story and then answering the question. One thing that I did to overcome this, one was say yes to God. And then two, it's the thing that I'm about to say, is be honest with myself. So I opened myself and I started to be honest. I was like, okay, like I'm definitely like hurting my body. I'm definitely not happy. I'm tired. Like I just want to give up, and like this huge list of many things. And then I started crying more. And I remember, again, I was very small, tiny, and I just like remember like tucking in my knees and like hugging them and just like crying. And then I told Jesus, I was like, Jesus, I know I told you that whenever I die, and first thing, God willing, if I get to heaven, well, I know he wants it, but like if I put the effort, I wanted to hug you, but I cannot wait that long. Like I need that hug right now. And yeah, in that moment, I felt like this man, like about 30 years old, strong but kind and gentle, like embracing me. And it was just like, I got chills just to remember that.
Wow.
And I was like, what is this? And I was like still crying, but like I was crying, but like I had tears, but I was just like in shock. Like my face was like who is this person? Like what's happening? And I was afraid to look because I didn't want to see like what was happening. I was in shock. And then like I was like, okay, no, but I do need to see. I mean, if it's Jesus, like I want to see. And then like I look up and it was one of my friends, but it was like also the shortest of my friends, well, like my classmates from the confirmation, which later on became my friend. But the shortest, and he was very like also thin, and he was just like, he's like, Rocio, are you okay? We need to go. I was like, how is that possible? Like, I felt like a man, 30-year-old man, strong, big, like, you're like a 15-year-old kid, in short, and not, like,
That's not what I
So
felt. Yeah,
yeah,
it's like
exactly.
I felt
Yeah,
Jesus, and then so it's
yeah,
like something happened actually.
yeah. And I was still like, what is it, like nagging? I think that's the word. Like, I just still was trying to convince myself that that was not Jesus. Like, no, that was just like no. But like, it was for me, Rocio. Like, it was just like, no, like, it's just like for me to believe that it wasn't Jesus, that didn't make logic. And I was like, I mean, it is, and I have to accept the truth. Like, I know it was him, you know. And
Wow.
then yeah, and then later on we had adoration, and so yeah, so I just kept that in my heart. I didn't share that to anyone because I was just like still in shock. And then that day during adoration, um, I I sat close to the Eucharist or kneeling, and I was still crying, and I was just looking at him, at Jesus, and I was just like, Lord, I'm sorry, but I'm just not happy. I mean, yeah, that was very cool. Like, thank you for the hug. Thank you for like all the things, blah, blah, blah. But this is not like, I'm not happy, and this is not what I want. But like, yeah, I was just not happy. And, and yeah, and then in that moment, I asked him like, Lord, what can I do to be happy? And then I heard, and I do want to say this very clearly because people, my friends, people have asked me like, so do you hear God's voice? Like, oh, Rocio. But no, I heard his voice in my heart. It was very quiet. It brought me peace, and it was very gentle.
Mm.
And it was just in silence. So I was able to put myself like in silence and just like, I mean, I was crying, but I was just like, and I heard him saying in my heart again, Rocio, you want to be happy? I will make you happy. Come follow me. Stay with me. I will make you happy. Not, well, he didn't say this, but like I understood. Not not eating or eating, not what the world is telling you, not what like
Mm.
anyone else is telling you, like not of that. And so yeah, so I was like, yes, Lord, I want that. I do want that. But I just like didn't understand like how I can have that, like how can I have him.
Mm.
And it was like hard to comprehend what he told me, and it was through time that I started to understand what he like, because those words come to me very often whenever I'm feeling like, oh. And yeah, and it was in that moment, again, I was crying, and it was in that moment that I just like felt like this source of energy like heat, and like I just started laughing and laughing,
Wow.
and I just like couldn't stop laughing and smiling, like, what's happening? Like I can't control myself, like what's happening? And then like my the people that were next to me, they were like, shh, Lord, like not necessarily, I think one of them was like, shh, and the other was one looking like, we're praying. I'm like, I'm sorry, I just can't contain it. I really
Wow.
can't. I really can't. I don't know what's happening. And yeah, and then from that time, and again, okay, and so to keep answering the other question, so
Yeah.
yeah, so I said yes to him. I was true to myself. I basically let go of everything because I knew there was nothing else in my power that I could do.
Mm.
And I had to give it all. Like, I just was nothing. And I presented myself to God with nothing, basically, like I'm nothing. And like I know, because sometimes I know that I felt like whenever I went to confession, like, oh, I got this. And sometimes like I can do things on my own, but it's not true. I can't. I really
Yeah.
can't. And I was honest with myself in that too. And it was in that moment that God is like, okay, you said yes, which it's a commitment, but you say yes, so here you go. And like every time I felt that, whenever I say yes to him, even in the smallest things, he always pours a lot of blessings in me
Wow.
every time. And it's just like, and I just like want to give him more, because I mean, yeah, again, I think I still have that a little bit in me of pushing people away. So I don't really like when people give me things. I mean, I do, but I don't like that. I don't know. It's just like, no, let me give you, which learn I had to understand that they also enjoy giving things, right? Like we all enjoy giving.
Yes.
So we all
Yeah.
have, like, I cannot tell them not to give me because it's what
Mm-hmm.
they're feeling called to do. But yeah, but either way, with God, like every time like I'm trying to give him more, he just like pours and pours and pours. I'm like, I
Yeah.
just want to give you more. And yeah, but either way, so after that, it was just like an entire like change.
Wow.
I
Did
was
people
joyful.
notice? Yeah.
They did. I actually do have a journal that I asked my now friends to sign, and that were in my classmates compliment this. And then they were like, Rocio, it just seems like you were in this like egg, and then like you just cracked the egg, and like something new came out of you. And
Yes.
it was like, I was like,
That's
nice.
great.
But it was very different, and I felt like secure about myself, confident in who I was, not because of, again, like how I look or anything, but it was more about the internal, because I was very wounded in my internal, not
Yeah.
just my physical, and then it eventually started to heal the external as well. um,
Yeah.
so so after that, again, like I was able to talk. I even felt that I was more, I don't know, like I mean, I know I do have still like a lot of grammatical errors in my English, but like I was like, I still like, I didn't care anymore, and I was like, I'm just gonna speak because I just feel like sharing this, like what happened to me,
Wow.
sharing this joy, like whether you understand me or not, I hope you do.
Wow.
And yeah, and so I started to be, I guess, who God called me to be. And
Yeah.
then so that was in high school, and then college was another story. But
Yeah. Well, that's an
yeah.
amazing thing. Like sometimes with, well, not sometimes, like all the time, we need like encounters with the living God to like heal us and to give us that joy and to bring us to life, you know? And I just love how it was so simple. It was like, all right, yes, you just said yes, like to the Lord. And then you were just honest with yourself, like you said, like, and just admitting, like, I can't do this anymore. And just realizing, like, what I'm doing is not making me happy.
Yeah.
So help, like, help, you know?
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was my mom who always told me, or my dad, or both of them maybe, but they were always like, Rocio, God is so simple. Like he is simple, like just simple things. And I think I learned more about it when I went to Haiti as in a mission trip,
Hmm.
and just like how from nothing, how happy they were. And I started to see like it was easier to see God in those like um, environments, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah.
which can be odd, but yeah.
Well, let's go into that next phase, college. So you finish high school as like this. You're on fire in high school,
Uh-huh.
and you're just like in the glory. And
Yeah.
then you decide to go to Savannah School of Arts. I don't know if I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying that right. I think there's more
Savannah
words.
College of Art and Design.
Okay, Savannah College of Art and Design.
Yeah.
And okay, so how did you decide to go there? Were you always interested in doing art, like growing up and like that sort of thing? So what inspired you to like want to become like an illustrator and an artist?
Okay, so I guess the little seed was planted when I was in third grade, still living in Mexico. And that's when one of my teachers asked us to do a drawing of our favorite place in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And I drew a lake and trees and many nature things. So it was a park. So I drew that, and eventually, after a few months, they told me that I won regional in first place when I
Wow.
completed from first grade to sixth grade, and I won the first place. I was like, I was totally not expecting that. I mean, I just did the drawing because like they told me, and I like drawing, and but like yeah. So after that, my friends were like, you should become an artist, and I was like, but there was like during high school and during that, so I still was carrying that. And in high school, I joined the art classes, and it was actually when I will like find some healing, I guess, or some like where I could feel like I was being myself in my
Hmm.
art classes. Um, and yeah, and so like later on the end of high school, I was just like, I don't know if I want to become an artist because I mean, what if I starve to death? I don't want to starve. So I had that fight along with like, but I really love doing it. And like, I can see myself doing this my entire life. Like, I don't mind spending like late nights doing this, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so I was like, I think I'm just gonna go for it because why not? Uh,
Wow. That's awesome.
yeah. Uh, and then, yes, so I went, oh, well, yeah, I applied for other degrees and in different schools. and I applied to Texas A&M. I applied to UT Austin. I applied to like many others, and I got accepted to all of them. So that was hard to choose. And they also gave me like good scholarship to everyone. I'm like, choices. I don't
Yes.
like decisions. I don't like to make decisions. But then I don't know. Again, I found peace in the art, because whenever I applied to other schools, it was for engineering or for medical or nutrition. Like, what am I doing? Not being myself. So no. So I just went for art. And
Wow.
yeah. And then so when I was there, my first goal, I guess, as an artist, whenever it's like, because again, I feel that I was still in fire with the Holy Spirit during my high school. Like I tried to continue to nourish it, I guess, or like
Yeah.
persevere in that. So I was still like praying and talking with God and being like, okay, I'm doing this, and I really want to do art where they can see you. And I can bring joy to others, and they can see your love. I want to do art for you. I want to do art that reflects you, and not just you, but Mary. I did that when I was in high school.
I've been looking at that art,
Yeah,
that piece of on Mary back there. That's beautiful. I mean,
thank you.
all
So
of
yeah,
them are, but
thank you. Yeah, I did many of them when I was in high school. Most of them, the ones in college are still packed. But yeah. But yeah, so when I went to college, I was still feeling like, again, I started to fall into pride, because I was like, oh, I'm like confident, like God is with me, like basically like I'm harmless, nothing bad's gonna happen, and all of these things. And I started to get lost into that lie, which what I've learned, it's that the devil, I mean, devil is very smart. But I've learned also that he can disguise like something good into something bad. So
yeah.
so I was like believing that, yeah, with God, like everything's possible, right? Like I'm like, yes, like I'm good. But I started to fall into pride. So I had to be careful with that. Like I have to know that it's not like
Yeah.
that, not it's always gonna be pink,
Mm-hmm.
not, the sky is not always gonna be pink. So yeah, but anyway, I started to fall into that. And then my friends, they, not many of them were Catholic, and yeah, so it was hard to still like continue doing what I was doing. Again, like there was a part of me that wanted to still continue going to mass and like praying and all of these things, but slowly like I started like not doing those things. I was still going to mass, but on Sundays. I was not used to going to daily mass, which sometimes I will go, but yeah. So I will go to mass, but with, again, like a lukewarm heart, like almost go like I'm here because I know I have to be here, and whatever. And then I will find myself not praying during the day, or like not doing anything, and basically again pushing God away.
Yeah.
And I will find myself a lot in parties, many parties. I was not a party girl ever. Like I yeah, I didn't like alcohol. I've never tried it before, but it was in my freshman year that I tried it, and it was crazy. So yeah, so I started to fall into this like obscure, what is it, like alluring world of like
Yeah.
that you will be filled, and that you will be happy, and that you will be loved, and these other things. So yeah, so my first years I started to have this internal battle with myself, because there was something in me that knew that this was not right, that knew that I had to stop, that I had to say no to some friendships. And yeah, and it was hard. It was very hard, because I still like didn't understand what was happening, because I know that partying is not wrong, but what I didn't understand is that how I was doing it, it was not right. I was exposing myself. I was just like abusing of alcohol. I was just like doing other things that are not right, and that actually enslave. That's also why I do feel that the Ten Commandments and like what Jesus has told us to do, I mean, they actually free me. And what I say
Yeah.
is like they free me from this world,
Yeah.
because I have to have like a balance there. I don't know what's the word, but with alcohol, like I cannot abuse it, right? Like
Moderation.
yeah, like yeah, be mother, yeah. thank you, that have moderation with that, and then also like have some dignity again. Like if I'm a daughter of God, what am I doing over there dressing like that? Like that's
Yeah.
just like not right. So again, like I started to do those things, and the world tells me, or told me, and still do sometimes. I do have temptations in some ways, like many of us here, but they were telling me, like, no, if you do this, like the guys are gonna love you, the guys are gonna like you, like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna be like blah blah blah, and like these other things. But the more I did that, the more sad and depressed and like heartbroken I was inside.
Yeah.
And then later on, I went to this. I was still in that phase, and then I had a priest praying over me and being like, "What's happening?" And then it was then that I started to see some light again, because I started to say yes to him in some ways. But at the same time, I didn't want to let go of the party world, right? Like my
Yeah.
friends and all of that. Like I just like there was like that pleasure as well, and I just didn't want to let go of that. But yeah, so it was like my spiritual battle, I guess, like to do the right thing or the wrong thing, and it was just
Yeah.
like constantly there. And yeah, so one time, like I was with this priest and another lady, the minister from the diocese of Savannah, and they were praying over me, and there I had a tiny encounter with Mary. So in high school, I started praying the rosary every day, and I never stopped doing that. Like since today, I never did.
Even
But
throughout the party years.
yes, but again, it
Wow.
was with a lukewarm heart. I just like felt that I needed to do it, but I was still not letting go, because
Okay. Yeah.
I knew that there was some truth in there. But I was just like also like kind of like pretending that the partying wasn't hurting me. So I was
Yeah.
just very ignorant in that way. Like I just didn't want to see that. And I was just like pushing that thought aside, like, oh no, the partying is good. I was just like, I wanted to delete that and these other things that I did. And yeah, so I had this encounter with her, and it brought me some light, and I was like, okay, I'm definitely doing something wrong, but I was still like fighting that, and I was like,
What happened? Like this encounter? I'm just curious. I just.
uh, oh, I we were praying, we were in the chapel, and it was just basically something. I mean, we'll have imagination, right?
Yeah.
And we'll have that. So I was praying, and I was again like I like to do things like 100% well done most of the time. So I was there, and I knew I needed healing. I knew I needed the priest. I know I needed them to like, I don't know, whatever it is that they were doing. Praying. Well, they were praying over me, but I knew a part of me, like my soul, was thirsty for that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went, and they called me actually. They were like, "So you want to do this?" I was like, "Sure." And then I went, and I was just very intentional about it, and I was praying or just calling the Holy Spirit while they were praying over me, and I had like a vision
Mm-hmm.
with her, but she was just like, in some ways, like showing me how great is God, how good is Him,
Wow.
and not to fall into those traps that the devil pulls for me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so after that I was still like having this battle, and then later on the retreat. So twice a year, the Diocese of Savannah makes this college retreat for all the schools, the colleges that are in Savannah, in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So SCAD was one of them. SCAD is a liberal school. It's not it's it's not any religion, but yeah. And there I also went to. They had a Catholic community. It was small, and I sometimes will go to it, but I also found myself like just like pushing that aside and not going anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to the retreat, one of my friends, that she, as well as Catalina, another of my friend, like Christina, Catalina, and I will like always usually go together. And then, well, Catalina, I actually met her a little bit before this happened, like the retreat and the praying over the priest.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually was another light into my heart, because it was through her that I got inspired again, like to go to mass, to daily mass, and like to be more intentional about my faith, because I will have
Yeah.
these conversations with her that were very like was like, wow, like you know a lot, because I feel, and at the end she became one of my best friends. But she is very like, she knows things like intellectual, and she reads a lot, and she knows like so many things. And I'm more like, oh, a bird, like that. So it was funny because like we balance each other like that. And then yeah, so she was like telling me things. So I was like, So again, like another light there. And then yeah, and then when the retreat came, Cristina was telling me like, Rocio, like you're going, right? I'm like, no. I was putting excuses and I was pushing away. I was like, no, I have too much homework, which is a lie. I mean, all my art projects. Well, I mean, I did, but like I do work very fast. So I knew like that was not like something like that I could put as
Yeah.
an excuse, but I still did. And she was like, Rocio, like you have to go, like you're going. I'm like, no. And she's like, if you don't like register yourself, I'm gonna do it myself. I'm like, fine,
Wow.
I'm going. So I was like the day before we were supposed to leave. And so yeah, and so I went, and there again, like I was still trying to get out of that dark pit that I was, I guess, but I was trying to do it on my own.
Yeah.
And the thing is that back then I didn't, I mean, right now I understand that it was because of my yes and what I told you in the beginning of what I did. Like I think it was 3 steps, like saying yes, being honest with myself, and like giving everything, like, you know.
Yeah.
And in college I was still like, yeah, I just couldn't grasp that yet. And then yeah, and so we went to the retreat, and there was a part of me that was still like there. But I do believe that during my entire college, it was Mary who was watching over me. I do believe that it was the rosary that I pray daily, even though I'm with a cold heart sometimes, or falling asleep some other nights. I do believe that still she, like as loving as she is, was like interceding for me, just because I was very perseverant in that. And yeah, so I do believe it was her, because I, again, like just other encounters with her during college, which I could maybe speak about some later. But yeah, so I went to this retreat, or actually I'm gonna speak about them. It's just one time during Halloween. One time during Halloween, I remember I went to mass because we had the mass of the saints, right? And so I went, and I was wearing like, I like to dress in white whenever we celebrate like someone that died, or like a saint or like that, because it just, yeah, they're holy. So either way, I do, either way, it doesn't matter. But so whenever I was coming back from mass, I usually walk. I didn't have a bike. I didn't like the bikes. And everything's so close where I lived that it was able to walk. I mean, the farthest thing could be like an hour away, but it was still like good to walk. But whenever it got dangerous was during the night. And I do remember that whenever I was coming back home, it was very dark, and people dressed in costumes and like this other thing. And Savannah is also a place known as like the most haunted place in the US.
Wow.
So yeah, so they always told us that from the beginning, but I just chose, I mean, I know the devil exists, right? I know it's real. And I had a very clear experience when I was in Haiti, like before I entered college. But yeah, but I also know that God is greater, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so either way, I was walking back home, and I always carry my rosary with me, because again, like I do. And yeah, and I think, I don't know if I started praying, but I was still maybe praying after mass, like still like conversing with Jesus. I don't know. And this was when I already met Carolina. So again, she, like that light started to flourish in me, I guess, in some ways. And yeah, and like I just, crazy me, I like to walk into danger. So I walk into this dark alley, I think it's what it's called. Alley, yeah.
Alley.
Yeah, and there were like guys over there, and like men, and like it was close to bars and things, and they were there like doing whatever. And I was just like there with my white dress, like again, like, oh, stars. Just there like being like, oh, and I was just like that. And then like I see these two men like saying something, like shadows saying something to each other, and like coming my way. And I was like, oh, two men coming my way. Hail Mary, full of grace.
Oh
So I
wow.
started praying. And then I saw one of them like just like stepped back as I started praying. He just like stepped back, like he wouldn't dare like come near to me. And then the other one continued walking. But once he saw me, he was like, and then he walked away. And I just like, I don't know if it was like something on my face or like what that scared him away. But like they just walked away. And I just continued praying. I was like, oh, okay. And then I just continued walking down the alley. And then after that, there was a car full of guys again and men. And they were like, just, I do hate when people catcall, especially girls. I
Yeah.
just, I've always did. And I know, and I heard them catcalling like some girls that were like passing and these other things. And I was like, I know, not me. And then, yeah, and so I just kept walking, blah, blah. And then I look, like I kind of look whenever the car was here, I kind of like look like that. I was still praying. And then like the guys were like about to speak, but like something happened that they weren't able. So they were like, and they were just
Wow.
quiet. And I just like continued walking. I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, cool. So yeah, so
Back
things
to the
like that.
birds in the air and the
Yeah,
stars.
yeah. So
Wow.
things like that. So I know that I cannot abuse that kindness from God because I mean, it's not like, oh, I'm gonna go into this war zone and I know how
Yeah.
it's because again, that pride, right?
Yeah.
So I have to be careful. But like I do know, like many things like that happen very often, and I'm pretty sure it was Mary and my guardian angel.
Wow.
But yeah. So either way, I went to the retreat, right?
Yes.
And there I was still like, I was like kind of like icky with myself, like I'm still having this battle, like I know it's there, but like I still have like these other like desires, I guess, of like going out, as kind of like partying and just like things. And I was like, oh, I just want some peace because I was very restless in my heart.
Yeah.
I just want to breathe, blah blah. And then also there, like I also had many heartbreaks, as we can say, with guys. So I was also at a point where I just was angry with every single boy, and like it only lasted less than a day because there's 4 boys in my family. I have 4 brothers and my dad, and I just love them. And I know that not all boys are the same, so I couldn't have that resentment because of what these guys did
Mm-hmm.
to everyone, you know. But there was still like a part of me, and I was just like, I have always been open to whatever, like any vocation that God calls me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, like I just don't want to do anything with it. Like I just want to focus here right now. You, Lord, I'm here at this retreat, blah, blah. And um, and yeah, and it was in that retreat later on that we started going like things, and again like another light, and I was like able again to see myself after a lot of weeping, after a lot of forgiving, but towards myself, that I realized the things that I was doing wrong, and again I was honest with myself. I started to see Jesus again in myself, because I got to a point after my confirmation, like another gift that I had was not only of being joyful again, being myself, but it was of being able to see God in me, but also
Mm.
in every single person. Like I just could see it, and I just couldn't
Wow.
hate anyone because I could see God so like perfectly. I was like, like that's amazing. But in
Wow.
college, because I started doing these other things, I started again to blind myself with other
Hmm.
things. So I was
Yeah.
not able to see God in me and in others. And it was there that I started to see him in others, and then eventually in me. And then it was also in that retreat that I just didn't know was going to happen, but I met who is now my boyfriend, Michael, and he was also another little light into my heart and
Wow.
healing as well, because of all these other things that guys have done to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, I was still like pushing, like again, I was shielding myself because I was still hurt, but this time it was more of the spiritual hurt and all the confusion in my head. So I was still like, and yeah, and I met him, but like nothing happened. And yeah, and I was still with my friend Catalina. And every time I go to a retreat, I like to focus to what I came for, so I can
Yeah.
forget, right? So I was there, and then later on, I went to Lacoste, so it's in France. And it was there too that I experienced somewhat of like desolation in some ways. And it was a little bit before that as well. It was just in a very, well, Lacoste is a town, but it's a very small town, and they don't have churches. It was just like literally like a house or like
Wow.
10 houses at most on top of the hill, and just nature. So for me to go to mass, I couldn't. And it was also something similar what we are all experiencing right now. Well, I think many of us like have already gone to mass
Yeah.
again, but like what we experienced. So it was hard for me because I was already in that like I was already starting to go to daily mass or like go receive the sacraments more
Yeah.
often, and it was very hard not to do that. But I also found a lot of comfort in nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was there that I don't know, I just feel like inner nature, it's to be with nature. Like we're meant to be with them, like united to that nature. And I just
Yes.
found a lot of beauty in that, and like a lot of that I could still like see God through those things,
Right.
and see
Right.
the beauty of those things. Um, and then again, there are like other things crazy happened with Mary. And I learned how powerful, so it's the name of Jesus. I remember because it was like a forest. It was not, well, more like a forest, like full nature. And to get to my classes, I had to walk like 30 minutes. And I was walking up this hill, and then this black dog came my way, like out of nowhere, from the woods. And I was just like, because yeah, I'm scared, especially of like big black dogs. And it was a big black dog. I was
Wow.
like, oh boy, oh boy. And then I was like, okay, like no, I have to keep the calm. I have to keep the calm. And I was like, okay, in the name of Jesus Christ, like I think I said like, please don't hurt me or something like that. And like whenever I was saying that, like I'm not kidding, but like this dog was rolling at me, like he was about to eat me.
Wow.
And then like whenever I said that, like this dog like became like a puppy. I mean, not that he turned to puppy, but like he just started acting like one. He just sat down and was moving his tail and was like, "Ooh, ooh, ooh." And I was like,
Wow.
but like I was still scared, so I was still like,
Thank you,
okay.
Jesus. I'm still not gonna pet this dog.
Yeah, no. But yeah, so things like that. And it was still, I mean, it was hard in some ways, but again, like God in his goodness, like he still like gave me more in other ways. So yeah, and then I had a blessing whenever we went to Paris. I went to everyday mass in Notre Dame, so that was a huge
Wow.
blessing. Uh-huh. And then yeah, and then later on I came back. I was saying no to many of my friends now, and I was still like starting like that because I started to appreciate more the sacraments and the value of it. And I was like, okay, no, there's true in this. And then I went to Hong Kong, and it was very crazy there as well because yeah, it's just, I guess we can say it's something similar to the New Age. I think like what it's shown in that, like those like dark. I'm just gonna put it like that, like dark spirits there.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was just very hard because it was, if the spiritual battle was a lot like very heavy before, it started to get worse. But that day when I went to Hong Kong, I didn't go alone. I went with Carolina, my friend, and we
Yeah.
started to experience horrible things. I'm just gonna put it like that.
Wow.
And I'm not gonna go into much detail, but maybe another time. But again, the devil is real, and he is trying
Yeah.
to destroy us. Like he wants us dead, and
Yeah.
he doesn't want us to be happy, and he wants us to dwell in despair, and he laughs at us whenever we are like feeling like we're worthless or these other things. But again, like that's why like we should never lose focus from Jesus. Like he
Yes.
told Peter, yeah, like he
Yeah.
told him, like focus on me, not on the storm, on me.
Mhm.
Because yeah, it is very hard, and I think it is hard for in different ways, but for everyone. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, so after that, after a lot of struggle, we both, like my friend and I think we became stronger in some ways and more
Yeah.
aware of other things. And yeah, and it was like after that, after again, like I was in a more safe space. I was still hurt and wounded for many things, um, and because the partying lasted for like almost 2 years and a half, 3 years, and all these other things that I did that I also didn't know that I was doing, which were opening doors to the devil.
Yeah.
And I was in that way, I was truly ignorant. Like I didn't know that was what I was doing until later on. So I started to, again, lots of healing, prayer, uh, just to free myself, like truly free myself, not to free myself like the world was telling me, but to truly free myself and be myself and be happy. That's why I
Yeah.
did it. And yeah, and then after Hong Kong, I came back and I was still talking to Michael, and then some healing that I found with like that grudge that I had against boys was because, like, I don't know how, again, like well, yes, I did generalize a lot before. I just thought that they were not respectful, or like they just didn't care about God. And like Michael was like the first light that's like helped me to see that that was not true.
Yeah.
That there's boys, and like also my brothers. I was like, but yeah, but either way, I started to talk to Michael, and I started to have these conversations about our faith, and it brought, like, again, like more like desire to learn more about my faith and be like, okay, like there's something like here. And yeah, and eventually we started dating, and we're still dating. But yeah, so he brought a lot of challenge with that as well, and healing, lots of healing, especially also because I then started to have the wounded that I healed, I guess, well, Jesus healed, of how I view myself was starting to get open again,
Yeah.
because I started to believe that, again, it was what the world was telling me,
Yeah.
in different ways, but in different forms, the lies, but it was still the same thing. So he helped me as well, and to see my value, as God sees me. And yeah, and so it was hard, but then after those 4 years, I came back here, and again, I was like, you know what, God, like I don't have a job, I don't have anything. Oh, after Savannah, I came back here to Houston,
Yes.
and I was just like, I have nothing, and I was still like fighting this thing, because what my school told me and what the world told me was that after college I need a job and I need to apply for jobs. And I was just very stressed and anxious, and I was starting to get angry again, and I started to push everyone away again, even God, just because I don't really know why, because I'm crazy. And then I broke up with my boyfriend, and I was like, no, I pushed everyone away, and I don't want this. And then after that, I again started going out partying, and that was not good. And then, like, but it was then that I saw, whenever I was like the first time that I went out, I was like, this is not real. Like, I'm just falling into these lies again. Like, I was able to
Yeah.
understand, and I was like, to detect, I guess, the lie. Like, it was so
Yeah.
obvious. I'm like, no, like, I don't want this, and I just left. And then I was like, okay, I broke up with him. I'm pushing everyone away. Like, if I'm doing this and if I'm gonna have my time alone, like, I better do something good with it. And so I started praying, and I started to like meditate a lot about the things that I've done, my actions, Michael, and my family, and just like what I was gonna do with my art. And yeah, and then slowly everything started to bloom again. But
Yeah.
because I again surrendered everything that I had,
Yes. Yes.
everything. And yeah, and I started to teach art classes, which I never saw myself as a teacher. I then started to have these other projects, like creating branding for another friend of my family, and that he also has podcasts. So he asked me to do his branding and these other things. I helped with the church again, and also with some like templates and posters. And these other things like slowly started to come up. Like, they were just asking me, and I was like, oh yeah, sure. And again, like, once I started to do, because during the last years of college, it was very hard because I couldn't do art, because not only was I like, well, okay, while doing all these other things that I wasn't supposed to do, I was also not being myself. And by not being myself, like, I'm an artist. I have to admit that I am an artist. And I was in some ways like not accepting that. So it was very hard because I couldn't do art. I really couldn't. And
Yeah.
it was my senior year, my junior year in college, and it was very hard. So I had to force myself. And then later on, again, when I started to do all these other projects, when I came back to Houston, I once again realized what I had to do. And very easy. Lord, my art is for you. It's not for me, because I started to do
Yeah.
art for me. And just for me, with the idea of me being like Leonardo da Vinci and like all these other things. But I was like, no, like, I don't care if I'm not famous. I don't care if like my art is only known by one person. Like, with one person, with my parents, like, I'm good. Like, I'm good. But like, I want to create art for you, and that's what I want to do. Bring you glory. Like, here I'm just trying to bring myself glory. Like, this is not right. Making myself by my own power happy. Making like, this is not right. This is not right. So again, I surrendered humbly and everything. And I was like, just do with me as you want. I'm your instrument, and I pray that I may be an instrument of peace and joy and love. And so it became my prayer through many days till now. Actually, I should still continue to pray that. Sometimes I forget and I stop doing that. But yeah. And then, I started to be able to create art as well.
Wow.
And then it was also during that summer that I realized that I broke up with my boyfriend for a very silly reason. I mean, I had my reasons, but most of it was because I was not giving, I mean, I guess until this day, I mean, I don't think we will ever, because our human minds are so small, will ever understand what love is. But I started to understand a little bit more. And I was just very afraid of what happened because, again, my entire past and I want to shield myself. And but I was like, no, like, I'm willing to, like, because like he's a good guy, and like I'm willing to take like the risk, and I just want to give my 100% into this, because I was just letting him be the one like carries the entire burden of the relationship. And that was not right. Like, if a relationship, it's involved of one, or I mean 2 or more people, right?
Yes.
And it has to be balanced. Like, it's not like you more, me more, like, no. So I found a lot of peace into that, like knowing, like, because another thing that he made me believe, which I don't blame him, I mean, that's sweet of him, but he made me think that I was never wrong whenever I did something. So like that started to create in me, like, oh, like I'm seamless, like I'm perfect, like I'm like,
wow.
no, I'm not. And then we had an entire conversation, but it was good. And we're in a long distance relationship, and it's hard, but with God everything's possible.
Right.
And so that, and then I, again, with my art, I gave it to God, and then slowly, I mean, I met you, and then I met another lady, my friend. Well, lady, she's not old, she's very young. She's just a few years older than me. So my friend, another girl, who is also who also hired me to illustrate another of her books. Again, it was just very randomly one day at the museum. And just like things like that start to happen. And lately I have found myself saying, it is good to trust in God. It's hard, but it's good to trust in him. And we do have to trust in him, because everything, I mean, I'm not saying that it's going to be easier, that it's going to be, again, like you're invincible. It's not. There's a lot of effort, but it's good when we put our trust in God.
Rocio, thank you so much for sharing. And it just reminds me that really the call of being a Christian, the call to follow Jesus, is a daily commitment. Like, it really is a daily, like, deny yourself, take your cross and follow him. And I love when you can look back at your life, like how you've done, and just see, okay, I really just I need to continue to just surrender to him, and not fall in these traps anymore. But it's a journey, it's a friendship, it's a relationship, and it's beautiful. And I just love your honesty, and like how there are pivotal moments that like stick out, but it's also like, am I being faithful today? Because that's all we have is today. And exactly. So, well, thank you. Thanks for sharing. Any last comments? Any last words for the audience out there?
Be happy. We have every single reason to be happy. Everything that we have right now. can make us happy. So it is our choice to keep being sad and depressed or whatever, or our choice to be happy and smile. So,
Yes. Well, thank you, Rocio.
yeah, of course.